Hello guys, let's begin with what we left in the previous video. So in this video I have to start from sources of tort law, common law versus statute law. Torts are mostly a common law subject. It is common law in the sense that tort law or rules of tort law developed not from a statute or an act passed by parliament but from centuries of judicial decisions, case by case in English courts as well as in courts of other countries following common law system like India and USA. In other words, for example, in India, both criminal and contract law are based on statute laws like Indian Penal Code and Indian Contract Act respectively. However, there are no statutes that comprehensively deal with tort law as a separate area of law. A contract lawyer would look up the Contract Act to look for rules to be applicable in a given fact situation. A tort lawyer would look for rules as developed by courts in similar cases. So, you know what precedents are, right? Precedents. Some previous cases which are set as an example to be taken up in the same fact or same circumstances situation in the cases if it arises in future. Various court verdicts are also given on the basis of precedents set up in the past. If a same situation, fact or circumstances appear in a future case and that same fact situation had already been taken up in a previous court verdict, then taking that as an example on the similar fact situation, verdict can be given in the future or in the present also. I hope being in class 12th you know what this term precedent mean. Now we say that tort is a common law. Okay, we have just now, or not just now but in this chapter only, we saw that for contract we have Indian Contract Act. For transfer of property related, or for transfer of its ownership, we have Transfer of Property Act. But for tort, we don't have any such specific act which is related to the tort rules or its principles or what all comes under it. Okay, so we don't have any such specific act or statute or order which has come from the parliament or which is passed with the discussions in parliament. So we don't have any such act or law. Rather, what we do is, for torts, we depend upon, or the lawyers depend upon, the precedents which are set up by courts in due course of time in similar fact, situation, circumstances, cases. Okay, so as it is also written over here in your books, case by case in English and courts of other countries, English courts and courts of other countries, since it is, now see, something which has been commonly established in all over the world, where in all world there is no particular act or a statute for tort. That's why it is called common law. It is a part of common law in the sense that this concept of tort is developed through the court verdicts, let it be court of India or of any other country. Okay, so commonly they have adapted this, but there is no specific act or statute related to torts. So if it is a crime, the lawyers will look up to IPC. If it is a case that had come to them related to dispute or violation of contracts, liabilities of contracts, then they will look up to ICA, that is Indian Contract Act. Similarly, if something related to property, they may look up to the Transfer of Property Act. But for torts, they don't have any rule book. as these acts are, they don't have any specific acts to look up into. So a tort lawyer looks for the rules which are set up by the court's verdict, and those court verdicts are called precedents. Okay. However, there are couples of areas of tort law where countries have enacted statute laws. So there are some portions or some areas of tort law wherein some countries have developed a statute. Statute is nothing but this word act when it gets attached. That means that particular has been passed with discussion in the parliament, so it is an statute. सो एक्ट जहाँ पर लग जाए मतलब वो स्टैच्यूट से आया है. ठीक है, स्टैच्यूट इज एन ऑर्डर और सम एक्ट. So in India, for instance, automobile accidents as well as harms caused to consumers of goods and services are covered by Motor Vehicle Act of 1988 and Consumer Protection Act of 1986 respectively. What this means is that if a case involves a car accident or injury due to defective products or deficiency in services, the set of rules of respective statutes can apply. So for certain areas, as a whole we don't have a rule book for torts, but for certain areas, if the country feels like the necessity, then it can always pass a statute. Like in India, Motor Vehicle Act of 1988, please remember the years of these acts, and Consumer Protection Act of 1986. These are specific areas of torts for which a statute has been passed. Okay, so obviously Motor Vehicle Act, the accidents which are caused due to vehicles, or you can say the drink and drive sort of situation, the you have those driving license, so that all is covered in Motor Vehicle Act. Rash and negligent driving, that all things is also taught, and also it can apply to these separate statutes. Consumer Protection Act of 1986, if I talk about, then if obviously consumer protection, to protect the consumer. So basically in this the main motive is to like some people in India, they are not literate, so they don't know their basic rights and powers as a consumer. So this act also makes them aware of their powers, that if there is any adulteration in the product which they have purchased from the shop, then they can sue the shopkeeper for deficiency of service. They can sue the retailer or the manufacturer, or if the shopkeeper has still stored up the stock of expired products, he had not seen the expiry date and is still keeping those products. So this time also, if the person buys and believing that obviously if it is kept in the market and he is showcasing, then it will be not in expiry, but contrary to that, the shopkeeper has sold an expired product, and if any of the person who consumes it falls ill, then that person has full right to sue the shopkeeper that why you have not only sold the expired product but you kept it in your shop. You have to remove it. It is the liability, it is the duty of the shopkeeper. Okay, so such deficiency, that is lack of service or selling adulterated product, that all is covered also in Consumer Protection Act. It can also come under negligence, which is a tort. Okay, now we come on to kinds of wrongful acts. In tort cases, victim or claimant claims that defendant or wrongdoer has conducted the wrongful act or is liable for injury incurred by the claimant. Now remember, in cases generally these terms are used: plaintiff, defendant. Okay, so I can give you a very simple trick to remember, because children get confused who is a plaintiff, who is a defendant. See this and see this, right? Or rather, Yes? So the one who files the complaint is plaintiff. You can see the similar terms, plaint. The one who files the complaint is plaintiff, and the one who defends himself in the complaint, in the case, that is defendant. Okay? And this plaintiff is also in this book known as claimant. Okay? Remember this thing. So tort cases, what happens? The victim who has suffered the damage or injury, he claims in the case that this person, that is the defendant, the other party, has committed this wrong, and so he is liable for the injury which was caused to me, and now because I have gained this injury because of him, so now he will be liable for compensation. He will award me this or that amount of compensation. Primarily, there are three kinds of wrongs in tort law. Wrongful acts can occur intentionally or negligently on part of wrongdoer, or defendant is strictly liable for the wrongful act. Now, what happens in tort? There are generally three cases. First is when the act is done intentionally. Second case, when the act is done because of the negligence of the defendant or the wrong person to the one who has committed the wrong, that is wrongdoer, or the defendant is strictly liable for the act that he has committed. Now, as we read it, we will be able to understand what these three cases are. Intentional tort. An intentional tort requires claimant to show that defendant caused the injury on purpose. Obviously, intentional means जानबूझ के उसने किया, वो accidentally नहीं हुआ. He very well knew, he had the knowledge that because of his act there will be an injury to another person. So intentionally he has committed that. Furthermore, claimant must show that he or she suffered a particular consequence or injury and that defendant's actions caused that injury. Claimant or the person or the victim must show that he or she has suffered an injury which is only and only because of the defendant's actions. Different intentional torts deal in different consequences and intents. So, depending upon the context and situations, there are various kinds of intentional torts which include assault, battery, false imprisonment, unlawful harassment. Now see, assault and battery, I have told you what they are. False imprisonment is that, suppose, let me take an example and then it will be clear to you. Suppose there are two people, A and B. So false imprisonment, if let's say there are two people, A and B, and at a night, okay, let us see, at any night there is a theft in A's house. Okay, a theft took place in A's house, and some other A's neighbor informed A that I saw a person wearing a red t-shirt with this or that particular symbol, okay, and he was bald, and by chance all these characteristics match with the person B, okay, and now since all the told characteristics are coincidentally matching with B, so A thinks that the thief is none other than B. So now he files a complaint against B that he had robbed my house, and actual B hasn't done any sort of theft. Okay, so A thought because of the told characteristics were matching with B, A thought that the thief is B, but in actual B hasn't committed any sort of thing. Okay, so and A has filed the complaint against B. The proceedings have started against B, and later on, when the case was going on in the court, at last the verdict came out to be in favor of B. That is, he is not a thief. He hasn't even entered the house of A. So now this is false imprisonment. That you had no solid belief that yes, B is the only thief, and then too you have initiated proceedings against that person on a false claim. Okay, or there can be another example, say A and B. The example that I told you right now can also be of malicious prosecution. Okay, malicious means, no, not malicious, because here there is no bad intention of A, but yeah, it will only fall in false imprisonment. If there had been a case that A also had the reason to believe that B is not the thief, he knew that, for suppose say that B and A were friends at some point of time in past, but due to some indifferences their friendship broke apart. But still A had the belief that B cannot be such a bad person or such a lowered person that he will be robbing a house. So A had a belief in some point of his heart that B is not the thief, but then too he initiated the proceedings against B somewhat to take out his enmity. Then that would be that he had with a bad intention, knowing that B is not the criminal or the person who had committed the wrong. Then too, if he had with bad intention filed and initiated the proceedings in a court of law, then that would be known as malicious prosecution. That will come later on. False imprisonment, the example that I told you before this one. Okay, the first example that I told you, that is of false imprisonment. Second example is of malicious prosecution. And now I'm gonna give you third example, which is another example, fact situation of false imprisonment. Let's say there are two people, A and B, and A has a house, okay, and B, on false claims, keeping all the situations same, that A thought B has put a theft on his house, and so he files a complaint, and due to which B now has to live in prison for certain days. Then that is false imprisonment because A's claim were false for putting B into prison. So that can also be false imprisonment. Unlawful harassment is, you can say, if, I think these all will come forward. So when they will come, I will give you the examples and I will explain you, because I can see battery and assault and all such things will come forward. Invasion of privacy. Invasion of privacy means I am intruding see, everybody has a right to privacy, right? Private contact as if communication. Like husband and wife or any people, they have, if they are talking in a closed room, then they have the right of privacy. Even if they are not talking, then too there is a right of privacy, and if someone tries to intrude or violate that, then that would be invasion of privacy. These may also have aspects of criminal law, but treating them also as torts, increasing the possibility of higher compensation. Always remember, tort is a civil crime, tort is a civil case. So the remedy in this is compensation, that is a certain amount of money, which is always decided by the court. And crime, obviously these are criminal laws, and in them punishments are given to the persons, to the accused. Okay, so And if you are combining the tort and crime together, if you are combining civil and criminal law together, then there will be compensation, there will be a punishment. So if you are treating, these can also be crimes at some of the other points. And if you are paralleling, or if you are combining crime and tort together, then there will be higher possibility that your compensation will increase. Why? Because some sort of compensation will be provided to you because of the tort that has been committed, and some amount may also be provided because of the crime aspect of it. Because in criminal law also, in IPC, in some cases, for some crimes there are punishments and some fines are also applicable, and those fines or those compensations can be given to the victim and to the state. Because crime, we say that crime is always committed against the society. It is not only committed against a single person to whom the injury is caused, but crime is said to be committed against the whole society. Okay, that's why in crimes, on behalf of the victim, the state, that is the government, sues. Yes, we did that in the previous video, that on behalf of victim in a criminal law, in a criminal case, the state files the proceedings. Battery and assault will be taken up in the next video.